Welcome to Passport to Sleep, a calming journey through real places and dreamy escapes. Let's begin tonight's story. The train pulls out of Nice, rattling past gardens and glimpses of the glittering Mediterranean. We lean toward the window, eyes wide as the coast spills open before us, cliffs tumbling into blue, villas perched precariously on green hillsides, boats bobbing in secret little coves. The ride is short and barely 10 minutes, but it feels like stepping into another world. At Villefranche-sur-Mer, the train station is a small, simple building perched right on the curve of the bay. We step down onto the platform, the warm air wrapping itself around us like silk. For a moment, we just stand there, breathing it in. The scent of salt and flowering orange trees. The low, rhythmic slap of water against stone. The soft clink of boat masts dancing in the breeze. Beyond the platform, the sea stretches out impossibly blue, cradled by a perfect horseshoe of pastel-painted houses that seem to float just above the shoreline. The world feels smaller here, quieter, more certain somehow. We shoulder our bags and follow the gentle curve of the promenade toward the heart of the village. Our hotel is an old building with peeling white shutters and a tangle of vines creeping up the stone facade. The Welcome Hotel, a name that feels both quaint and profoundly right. The woman at the desk greets us with a smile, her French laced with a musical Italian softness. She hands over a heavy brass key tied with a velvet ribbon, and we carry it up a narrow staircase worn smooth by 100 years of footsteps. The room is simple, bright, sun-drenched, a wrought-iron bed draped in crisp linen, a tiny balcony just wide enough for 2 chairs and a table. And beyond, the bay. It stretches out like a painting, the water shifting from sapphire to turquoise to jade, boats bobbing lazily on the slow swell. Seagulls wheel overhead, their cries sharp and joyous. We leave the balcony doors flung wide and collapse onto the bed for a long, slow breath. The room smells of salt and old wood, and something faintly floral, jasmine maybe, carried on the breeze. The clock ticks softly in the corner, measuring nothing important. After a while, hunger pulls us back into the day. We step outside, blinking into the bright sun, and wander along the Quai de l'Amiral Courbet, the harbour road that hugs the edge of the sea. Shops and cafes spill out onto the promenade, their awnings striped in faded blue and white, their blackboards scrawled with today's menus in looping chalk. The houses lining the water are painted in warm faded hues, ochre, rose, terracotta, their shutters thrown wide to catch the breeze, their balconies heavy with geraniums and bougainvillea. Everything here feels sun-bleached, salt-worn, alive. Old men sit on benches shaded by plane trees, arguing softly over games of pétanque. Children chase pigeons across the wide stone quays. Fishermen mend nets in the shade of their boats, their hands moving slow and sure. The air hums with life. We find a cafe tucked under an ancient fig tree, its terrace shaded and cool, overlooking the harbour. We sit at a small table, the iron legs wobbling slightly on the uneven stones. A waitress brings a carafe of chilled rosé, the condensation already running down the sides of the glass. We pour carefully, the wine catching the light, the colour of pale, dusty roses. We order lunch without thinking too much. First we dig into a salade niçoise, heavy with olives, tuna, and the sharp bite of anchovy. Afterwards, we share a basket of crusty bread still warm from the oven, while enjoying a small plate of tapenade, rich and salty. The first sip of wine is pure sunlight, cold, dry, singing faintly of strawberries and stone. We eat slowly, tasting everything. The briny pop of the olives, the peppery bite of the arugula, the soft crumble of the bread dipped in sharp green oil. All the while the sea murmurs just beyond our feet, the boats shift and clink softly. A boy kicks a red ball down the quay, his mother laughing behind him. The world folds itself gently around us. After lunch, we wander. There is no map, no plan, only the crooked pull of ancient alleys. The old town of Villefranche is a labyrinth of stone. The streets are narrow, some no more than arm's width, twisting and dipping under archways and between faded walls covered in peeling murals. Bright laundry flutters from wrought-iron balconies, stone steps climb steeply, worn smooth by centuries of feet. Flower pots crowd every available surface, geraniums, lavender, tiny lemon trees heavy with fruit. The light here is different, the cooler, slanting, painting the stones in soft golden shadow. We find ourselves in the Rue Obscure, almost by accident. It's a tunnel street, a dark, vaulted passage running beneath the houses, built in the 13th century to protect villagers during sieges and storms. The air inside is cool and damp, smelling faintly of stone and history. Our footsteps echo hollowly on the cobbles. Light filters in from high, narrow windows. The occasional doorway opens off the passage, leading into secret courtyards or tiny apartments tucked into the rock. It feels timeless. Outside, the world bakes in the sun. Here it waits in shadow. We emerge blinking into a sunlit square, where a fountain bubbles softly, pigeons hopping at its edges. A woman sits on a bench beneath an olive tree, a sketchbook balanced on her knees, her pencil moving in slow, deliberate strokes. The scent of baking bread drifts from an unseen kitchen. The bells of the nearby church chime softly, marking the slow drift of the afternoon. We climb a steep staircase and find ourselves at the top of the old town, where the view widens out again. Below us, the bay glitters, a patchwork of light and shade. To the west, the Cap de Nice curves out into the sea, its slopes carpeted in dark pines. To the east, the peninsula of Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat juts into the Mediterranean, a green jewel against the endless blue. The world feels wide and close all at once. We sit on a low stone wall, legs swinging idly, and let the sun soak into our bones. As the heat softens, we wander slowly back down toward the water. The village is quieter now. The shops closing for the long afternoon rest, the cafes emptying slightly, the sea darkening to deeper, richer blues. We find a small gelateria tucked into a corner of the quay and order cones of lavender and honey ice cream, floral, sweet, melting almost faster than we can eat it. We sit by the harbour wall licking sticky fingers, watching the boats drift slowly on their moorings. The sun begins to lower itself, casting long golden paths across the water. The houses across the bay catch fire, their colours deepening, glowing. The sea turns to molten glass. The air cools, softens. The lamps along the quay flicker to life, their light catching in the branches of the plane trees, scattering gold and silver onto the stones. Dinner waits at a terrace restaurant just steps from the water. The tables are small, crowded close together, the candles flickering in the rising breeze. We order simply. A grilled dorade, sea bream, fresh and tender, drizzled with lemon and olive oil. Also ratatouille, rich with tomato, zucchini, eggplant, simmered down to pure summer. And another carafe of rosé, cold and dry and singing of distant hills. The food is perfect, the kind that tastes of sun and sea and patience. We eat slowly, forks tapping softly on plates, the salt air brushing our faces. Around us, French and Italian and English blend into a low, contented hum. The sea murmurs just beyond the edge of the terrace. The stars begin to gather, shyly at first, then in great crowds overhead. After dinner, we walk. The stone jetty stretches out into the darkened bay, a narrow path lined with low lamps. The water laps softly against the rocks. The boats sway and creak gently. The village lights shimmer in the black mirror of the harbour. We walk to the end and sit, legs dangling over the edge, the cool stone soaking into our palms. The night smells of salt and jasmine, of grilled fish and old stone. Somewhere across the bay, a guitar plucks a slow, mournful song. The stars scatter themselves across the sky, sharp and bright and endless. We sit there until the candles gutter out, until the last diners drift away, until the night folds itself gently around us. And even then, we stay a little longer, reflecting on the things we felt today. Morning arrives slow and soft over the bay. The light slips in through the open shutters, pale at first, then gold, brushing the whitewashed walls with the warmth of a new day. Far below our little balcony, the harbour wakes lazily. The boats creak and sway in the gentle tide, their ropes groaning softly against the quay. A single gull calls out once, then again, then falls silent, the sound echoing against the stone houses, like a question left hanging in the warm morning air. The room smells faintly of the sea, salt, stone, the sharp sweetness of last night's jasmine lingering on the breeze. Somewhere nearby, a church bell tolls 9 times, each slow note slipping down the hillsides and across the water like a ripple. We stretch slowly, limbs heavy and content, and make our way downstairs into the brightness of the day. Breakfast waits in a small salon overlooking the bay, a simple affair, laid out with easy elegance. Croissants still warm from the oven, their buttery scent filling the room. Bowls of strawberries so ripe they seem to melt into juice at a touch. Honey so golden it catches and holds the light like a jewel. We fill our plates, pour strong black coffee into wide, shallow cups, and carry everything out to a table just barely large enough for two. The harbour spreads before us like a living painting. The sea is a colour that defies simple description. Not blue, not green, but somewhere between, shifting with the light and the breeze. The village curves around it, soft and golden in the early sun, the pastel houses catching fire where the light strikes them full. The morning feels weightless, unhurried, infinite. After breakfast, we slip back into the sun and stroll slowly down to the water's edge, following the curve of the old stone quay. The smell of salt and sun-warmed stone rises around us. Fishermen sit along the low wall, their lines dipping lazily into the sea. Their chatter drifts over the water, low and musical, punctuated now and then by a burst of laughter. We reach Plage des Marinières, the long curve of soft sand that cradles the bay just beyond the village. The beach is almost empty still, the rows of blue and white umbrellas folded down, the chairs waiting patiently for the day's first visitors. The air smells of sunscreen and seaweed, and the faint mineral tang of salt drying on skin. We leave our sandals at the edge of the beach and step onto the warm, powdery sand. The grains cling to our toes, soft and fine. The water laps gently at the shore, so clear that we can see the ripple of every stone beneath its surface. The first touch of it against our ankles sends a small shock of delicious coolness up our spines. We wade out, the water rising slowly, lifting our bodies until we are floating effortlessly, weightless under the wide blue sky. The sea cradles us. The sun glitters on the surface like a spill of diamonds. Somewhere far off, a boat hums past, leaving a lazy wake that rocks us gently. For a long time we swim and float and simply exist. The water slips across our skin like silk. The salt stings our lips sweetly. The horizon stretches out before us, vast and welcoming. When we tire, we drift back to the sand and sprawl under the slowly opening umbrellas, the salt drying on our skin in a fine, glittering crust. The heat seeps into our bones. The world blurs into the soft hush of waves and the distant cry of gulls. Around midday, we gather ourselves, shake the sand from our towels, and wander up into the village for a simple lunch. A tiny bakery with its windows thrown wide to the sun offers baguette sandwiches filled with ripe tomatoes, fresh mozzarella, and a slick of olive tapenade. We carry them in crinkling paper wrappers to a small stone park shaded by olive trees, and eat sitting on a low wall, the juice of the tomatoes running down our wrists, the bread crackling and fragrant in our hands. The afternoon heat grows thick and golden, the village hums softly with life. And we decide to walk a little farther, to one of the Riviera's secret treasures. From Villefranche, the path climbs gently upward towards Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat, a narrow green peninsula that juts into the sea like a hand cupped to catch the sun. The walk is slow, winding past villas half hidden behind high stone walls, and gardens bursting with bougainvillea and wild roses. The scent of pine and hot stone rises around us, mingling with the deeper breath of the ocean. After a gentle climb, we arrive at the gates of the Villa Ephrussi de Rothschild, a confection of a palace perched high above the sea. Built in the early 20th century by Baroness Beatrice de Rothschild, it feels less like a house and more like a dream carefully stitched into stone and garden. The villa is pink, delicate, gleaming softly in the afternoon light. Its windows catch the sun and throw it back in shards of gold. Inside, the rooms unfold like a jewellery box. Gilded furniture, silk wall hangings, delicate porcelain, marble floors so polished they reflect the sky. But it is outside that the world truly shifts. 9 gardens stretch away from the villa, each one a different dream. A Spanish garden draped in fragrant orange trees. A Florentine garden with carved stone balustrades and secret nooks where the sound of hidden fountains kisses the air. A Japanese garden where red bridges arc over still ponds and the leaves of maple trees whisper secrets to the breeze. We walk slowly through them, losing track of time, our senses drenched in colour and scent and sound. The roses spill their sweetness into the air. Water tinkles and murmurs from 100 hidden fountains. Butterflies drift from flower to flower like living jewels. In the French garden, the grandest of them all, we find a long reflecting pool stretching toward the sea. Fountains leap and dance in time to soft music that seems to rise not from speakers, but from the earth itself. We sit on a low bench at the edge of the pool, the stones still warm from the afternoon sun, and watch the water catch the sky and scatter it into diamonds. Above us, the villa floats pink and perfect against the blue. Below us, the sea breathes in slow, endless rhythm. Around us, the gardens sigh and shimmer. The moment feels suspended, timeless, held lightly between the heartbeat of the earth and the sigh of the sea. When we finally rise, the sun is already slipping lower, stretching our shadows long across the gravel paths. We walk slowly back toward Villefranche, the air cooling, the light thickening into gold. The village is quieter now. Shops are closing, their windows shuttered against the coming night. The cafes along the quay are setting tables, lighting candles, sweeping fallen bougainvillea petals from the stones. The sea darkens into a deeper, richer blue, holding the last threads of daylight close against its skin. We dress quickly in fresh clothes, skin still salted from the sea, hair carrying the scent of pine and rosemary from the gardens. Then we step back into the soft breath of the evening. Dinner waits at a small bistro tucked into a narrow lane just above the harbour. The terrace is tiny, no more than 6 tables pressed together under a trellis, heavy with vines and small white lights. The air smells of garlic and grilling fish, of lemons and crushed herbs. We are seated at a table near the edge where we can just glimpse the bay through the gap in the buildings. The candle flickers gently between us. Tonight we order without rush. First comes a salad of arugula and thinly shaved fennel, dressed simply with oil and lemon, bright and sharp on the tongue. Then a fillet of sea bass, grilled to a perfect crispness, its skin crackling, the flesh falling into soft fragrant flakes with the lightest touch of the fork. It arrives resting in a pool of butter and capers, with slices of roasted tomato melting into sweetness beside it. A bottle of Provençal rosé arrives cool from the cellar, the glass sweating gently in the night air. It tastes of strawberries and salt and wild herbs, of hillsides caught in the sun. We eat slowly, savouring each bite, each sip, each flicker of the candle as the night folds deeper around us. Somewhere nearby, a man plays a guitar softly, his voice low and rough with smoke and sun. The stars gather thickly overhead, pressing close to listen. After dinner, we walk once more along the quay, the stones still warm underfoot, the night wrapped around us like a soft cloak. The boats rock and sigh in their moorings. The lamps throw long golden paths across the black water. The village breathes, slow and deep as if dreaming. We find a bench at the very edge of the jetty and sit, our shoulders brushing, the night wrapped tight around us. The sea murmurs secrets to the stones. The stars wheel slowly overhead. We sit until the last cafe chairs are stacked, until the last light flickers out, until the last wave kisses the shore and falls silent. A perfect end to a perfect day. The morning wakes early over Villefranche, blushing the pastel walls of the harbour pink before even the bells begin to chime. The air is soft and cool, laced with the scent of salt and fresh bread drifting up from the boulangeries, hidden in the folds of the old streets. We rise slowly, stretching in the quiet, letting the first light find us. From our small balcony, the bay is a perfect mirror, the boats barely stirring, the surface of the water catching the colours of the waking sky. Down below, the quay is just beginning to come alive, a few fishermen setting out their wares, a cafe owner dragging chairs out into the sun. Breakfast waits at a tiny cafe tucked into the corner of a small square. We sit outside at a wobbly table, still damp from the night air, and sip thick coffee while the town shakes off its sleep. A basket of pastries arrives, each one warm and impossibly light, dusted with sugar that catches on our fingers. The croissant flakes into golden layers at the lightest touch, the inside buttery and soft, and the apricot jam we spread over it is so fresh it tastes like the fruit was plucked only hours ago. After breakfast, we stroll toward the square where the market is setting up under wide awnings. The stalls are a riot of colour and scent. Crates of peaches, heavy and fragrant, mounds of tomatoes so ripe they almost glow, baskets of lavender tied with twine, their scent sharp and clean on the breeze. A woman with a deep tan and a wide-brimmed straw hat offers slices of cheese from a small wooden board. We accept, and the cheese is sharp, earthy and perfect, crumbling between our fingers. Nearby, a stall overflows with handmade soap stamped with the names of local herbs: thyme, rosemary, verbena. Their scents mingle with the salt air, creating a haze of memory and earth. We linger over a stand of pottery, the bowls glazed in shades of sea and sky, the plates etched with tiny fish and olive branches. Everything feels touched by the place itself, as if the town and the sea have leached into the very clay and fibre. We buy nothing extravagant, only a small bag of strawberries and a tiny jar of lavender honey, and tuck them into our bag for later. The morning drifts easily by. The streets hum with life, but never loudly. A guitarist plays somewhere down an alley, his notes rising like mist into the warming air. Children weave through the crowds with sticky fingers and laughing voices. The sea glitters at the end of every street, a constant thread pulling the town together. After the market, we leave the heart of Villefranche and follow a narrow path along the coast, the chemin de ronde. The footpath hugs the cliffs, winding gently above the sea, offering glimpses down into hidden coves where the water flashes green and silver against black rocks. The air here smells fresher, more wild. The scent of salt is sharper, the sound of the waves louder, and the warmth of the sun seeps into the stones beneath our feet. Wildflowers push through cracks in the rock, their yellow and purple heads nodding in the breeze. Butterflies flit past, and once we startle a small lizard that darts across the path and vanishes into the scrub. The walk is slow, meditative. Every few steps we stop just to look, to breathe. The sea stretches out to the horizon, blindingly blue under the midday sun. A sailboat moves lazily across the bay, its white sail snapping gently. Behind us, the town of Villefranche shrinks into a patchwork of gold and coral, stitched into the green hills. After a long, easy walk, we return toward the village. The sun is high now, and the cafes along the waterfront are filling with people. Families laughing over plates of moules frites, couples sipping cold wine and sharing bowls of olives. We find a small table under a striped awning at the edge of the quay. The table wobbles slightly on the uneven stones, and the chairs creak when we sit, but the view is perfect. The curve of the bay, the shimmer of the water, the quiet bobbing of the boats. Lunch is light and slow. A salad verte arrives first, the leaves crisp and bright under a drizzle of sharp vinaigrette. Then a plate of roasted chicken, the skin crisp and lemony, resting beside a small heap of golden potatoes and a tangle of roasted peppers. The food tastes of the sun, of herbs crushed between fingers, of slow kitchens and careful hands. The wine is pale and cold and tastes faintly of stone and salt, as if the vineyards themselves had soaked up the sea air. After lunch, we climb gently up the hill to the citadel of Villefranche, the massive 16th century fortress that still watches over the town. Built by the Dukes of Savoy to defend the bay from pirates, the citadel is a maze of thick stone walls, shaded courtyards, and secret gardens. The air inside the citadel is cool, thick with the scent of old stone and dry grass. We wander through its open galleries where local artists have hung their paintings, splashes of colour against the weathered walls. In the deeper recesses, the stone tunnels echo softly under our footsteps, as if remembering all the lives that passed through here. Soldiers, monks, prisoners, dreamers. From the ramparts, the view is even wider than before. The bay cradles the town like a jewel in the palm of the hills. The mountains behind rise green and blue into the distance. The sea, endless and glittering, stretches out beyond the curve of the earth. We sit on a low wall, legs dangling, and eat the strawberries we bought at the market. They are warm from the sun, bursting with juice, and so sweet they leave us laughing. The afternoon light turns heavier, golden, syrupy. We wander slowly back into town as the sun begins to slip toward the horizon. The waterfront glows in the late light, the pinks of the houses turn richer, the shadows deeper, the water darker and more secretive. For our last evening, we choose a small restaurant right at the edge of the quay, its terrace almost leaning over the water. Lanterns are strung between the awnings, their lights soft and flickering. The sea laps just below our feet. Dinner is simple and perfect. A plate of grilled sardines arrives first, their skin crackling, the flesh tender, and tasting faintly of smoke and salt. Then a bouillabaisse, the local fish stew, thick with the scent of saffron and fennel, brimming with mussels and shrimp and chunks of soft white fish. Thick slices of bread accompany it, to soak up every drop of broth. We eat slowly, lingering over every bite, every sound, every shifting glimmer of light on the water. As night falls, the harbour lights come on, scattering gold across the bay. The stars begin to prick through the velvet sky, faint at first, then sharper, bolder. The boats rock in their moorings, the sea whispering against the stones. We walk the length of the quay one final time, the stones cool under our feet, the night soft against our skin. The sea smell rises thicker now, richer, carrying the weight of the dark. At the end of the jetty, we sit together on the low wall, arms brushing, the world stretching quiet and endless around us. The lights of the village behind us shimmer like dreams, the stars above wheel slowly in their ancient dance. The sea hums a slow, steady lullaby against the stones. We breathe it all in, the salt, the stone, the night, the memory of the day folding itself gently into our hearts. We stay there until the night presses close, until the stars crowd thick overhead, until the sea and the sky and the town dissolve into a single, endless breath. It is hard to let the night and this place slip away. We hope you enjoyed this journey. Please follow us for more destinations, and don't forget to leave a review. It helps others find a peaceful place to drift off to. We'd also like to remind you that information in this episode may become outdated. Please verify with your own research if you plan on traveling to any of these lovely destinations. Until next time.